Edgar Allan Poe, born in 1809, was a renowned writer, poet, critic, and editor. His collection of short stories all display aspects of the Gothic genre. Edgar Allan Poe laces his work with common themes, motifs, and structures that make his work easily recognizable and, more importantly, fits his stories into the classification of the Gothic. Among these elements are death and decay, the theme or presence of madness, insanity or other internal chaos, the supernatural in all of its forms, and haunted or eerie locations. Most stories by Edgar Allan Poe possess most, if not all, of these Gothic qualities. One need only look The Telltale Heart, The House of Usher, and The Black Cat, which exhibit all of these traits. As in all of his stories, Poe allows the reader to understand the situation of the protagonist through a small recount at the beginning of the piece. It underlines the events that occurred and what actions led to their current situation. The situation is contextualized and the reader receives the underlying story. Edgar Allan Poe's short story, The Black Cat, is a story in which Poe uses an unreliable narrator to start the story. A murderer carefully conceals his crime and believes himself unquestionable, but eventually crumbles inside and reveals himself, impelled by a nagging reminder of his guilt. Poe represents different aspects of his life in this story. For example, he includes the death of a cherished woman. He often writes about this in his stories because his mother died when he was young, and also his young wife dies soon too. In this story, the narrator seems to love his wife until she tries to stop him from killing the cat and eventually dies herself. The analysed extract from the short Gothic story is the beginning, the unveiling of the story. It begins to explore the narrator's characteristics. His writing tone is rather calm, as if he has not completed any terrible actions. In the first lines of the passage, Edgar Allan Poe is prompt to reveal the recurring theme of madness. Mad indeed, the narrator is conceptualized, yet he juxtaposes this stating his sanity, yet mad am I not. This relates to the Gothic genre, as there is a sense of uncertainty. The juxtaposition gives two sides to the idea, and the theme of insanity also creates an uneasy feeling, as this is foreshadowing a future insane event. The recount at the beginning of the passage questions the reader into why the narrator has decided to pen such a story, as if he is hinting and building on the idea that an evil action is soon to occur. The narrator confesses that the punishment for what crime he has committed will only unburden his soul. This also creates a contrast, as a consequence, ultimately, is the hanging of the narrator, yet he claims it will only relieve his soul. Further into the passage, Poe can clearly be seen juxtaposing the horrific murder with the statement that his actions were mere household events. All of these comparisons that the writer makes only build on the horror effect, as it shows that the unfolding narration can take an undirected turn at any moment. In the 9th line of the passage, Poe uses anaphora, meaning the repetition of a start of a phrase, with have. By using this technique, Poe is able to underline the importance of the events that have taken place. Edgar Allan Poe uses the word baroque in his writing. This expression usually refers to a bizarre or unusual quality. The implementation of such a word in this context can underline that the narrator, despite all contradictions at the beginning, is truly in a state of madness. As the passage progresses, the narrator discusses his current situation through vivid imagery and with the use of rich vocabulary. However, the 14th line suggests a false anaphora in a sense, as the expression more is repeated twice. However, the third word is a juxtaposition, far less. This example also shows the uncertainty of the narrator's story. The final sentence of the first paragraph discusses the natural causes and effects. This phrase can be associated with a connection to the supernatural aspect of Gothic stories. Superstitions refer to the belief that one event leads to another without any natural processes involved. When this story was published in 1842, superstitions were extremely prevalent in various cultures. This could affect the reader's response. People who believe in superstitions are more likely to be in fear after reading this story, as a result of the widespread claims of the black cat that crosses the road, proving to be unlucky. In the text, the cat is referred to as entirely black, and the actions of the cat are followed by death. The elements of complete darkness and death only increase the effect of superstition through the eerie Gothic elements present. The second paragraph concludes Poe's recount of the story and indulges the reader in a broader and larger description of the life of the unnamed storyteller. The progression of the first sentences highlights an identifiable overarching question. Was the narrator a normal child? How was he treated in his infancy? The description provided through Poe's expressive writing poses the idea that Poe was either bullied or teased. Edgar Allan Poe clearly emphasizes the narrator's love for animals and what an influence they had on him as a child and as an adult. He continually expresses his caring and gentle tone towards the creatures and creates an idea that they were a distinct guiding point throughout his life. However, the development of the piece creates an unclear understanding of the feelings the narrator expresses towards his animal. The introduction displays extreme passion and love for his beloved cat, Pluto. It is a remarkably large and beautiful animal, entirely black and sagacious to an astonishing degree. However, as many difficulties arise such as alcoholism and become uncontrollable, the narrator expresses hatred and extreme annoyance towards the creature, as even Pluto began to experience the effects of his ill temper. References to the parents of the narrator occur very scarcely and rather vaguely throughout the passage, in contrast to the description of his surrounding animals. Here, Edgar Allan Poe creates the image that his parents were not catalysts in his childhood. They had no influence on his life and he gave no guidance at all. This once again suggests the importance of the wild creatures in the unnamed narrator's life, and how they, at many distinct moments, were the true pivotal aspects for him. Finally, the conclusion of the extract compares the loyalty, faithfulness, and devotion of animals to mere man. In this passage, the narrator encompasses his love and trust of his fauna, very strong, reliable, and highly dependable. This also incorporates the idea of the trustworthiness of humans. The more evolved animals cannot withhold such loyalty that the narrator truly requires. Edgar Allan Poe creates a steady pace throughout his writing. Due to the gothic and horror aspect of the story constantly increasing, at moments, the pacing of the extract can feel rushed or at a faster speed. This is a very clever technique used by Poe, as it only engages the reader even more. Such strong, bold imagery and eloquent language are extremely engaging, a technique that Edgar Allan Poe brilliantly displayed in the short Gothic story of The Black Cat.